Back for the Shot of Business Central segment. I'd say there's a good amount of news and a good amount of updates, but nothing too crazy. The Release Wave 2 updates have been rolling out all month, and I think that if you schedule them, they have to be done by either the middle of December or end of December, somewhere around there.
Yep, we're seeing the live production environments getting updated around the very last few days of October here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about all the Release Wave 2 features later in this segment. So to move on, AppSource now has over 1,000 apps. They broke the 1,000 app mark. Yeah. So
big milestone.
Yeah.
Huge milestone. Still no feature option, but big milestone. Nobody knows what's new. Ken attended BC UG. Want to tell us a little bit about that, Ken?
Yeah, so the Business Central User Group Summit conference was held last week. It was a fully virtual event. Did the general session. They did the normal sessions, hundreds of different sessions across all the Dynamics products. For Business Central, I did a session on building Power BI reports within Business Central and how to set up a data set and a data source and everything. My session, over 50 attendees were in my session, so I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you. Normally when you're physically on site, you've got this room, and normally I would say it's anywhere from about that 40, 50 people on a good session, where the room's mostly full. And so I was surprised, to be honest with you, that many people were diligent enough and disciplined enough to attend those sessions.
And out of the hundreds of sessions, Ken's session was in the top 10 for most attended.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good. Nice job. Great job.
Good job.
Pat yourself on the back there.
Yep.
Or take another
So
swing there.
it was pretty good. One of the big news pieces that was interesting is they're releasing, the dynamic community is releasing this new platform, I guess you'd call it, called the Decision Accelerator platform or whatever. And so I think it's a big, whether you're an end user of a Dynamics product like Business Central or you're a partner, it's exciting. It's basically like a platform where you can subscribe to receiving information about different products. So I can say, I'm Ken, I'm interested in Business Central, Power BI, manufacturing, and credit and collections, or whatever, different software topics or business application topics or industries. And then when I log in, I have a news feed which shows me information, articles, videos, and content that has to do with those specific things that I'm interested in. So it's kind of tailoring a different view for each person based on their exact role, what industry they're in. So I think it's a positive. It's maybe a negative for some partners because there's an additional hefty fee that goes along with, if you want your brand, your company logo, and your products or whatever it is to be included in that platform. There's a significantly higher annual cost now to participate in that than what we've been used to in terms of being a partner that's a member and a sponsor.
So if you're a partner, do you sit back and have to deliberate if we subscribe to this with this cost? Or are we going to still do we get more of a benefit from this than actually attending the actual conference? Are a lot of people not going to attend the conference because they still have a way to push their brand and their information now with this new platform?
Well, I think that's a good question, right? Yeah. So if I have marketing dollars, right, and I know I can 12 months a year communicate with interested parties and give them content, push content through there to them. Right. What is there less value in an on-site? I think that's yet to be determined. Yeah. We'll see. We're in the midst of a pandemic right now, so I think no one's interested in going traveling to conferences maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe in a year or two, people are going to have all this pent up energy to want to go to these events.
Yeah. I actually think from the Dynamics community standpoint, it's a pretty good idea. Obviously, it's revenue generating for them.
Yeah.
But for a partner, it's another way to get your information in front of these people that are actually on Navlog that might need your services or whatnot. Because right now, I mean, it's just, they look at a form or whatever, and hey, this person might sound smart. Maybe we'll contact them and see what's going on. But, so I like the idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one more way that people can digitally reach out to others with relevant content for them, right? You can't argue that that's a bad idea.
Not at all. So, Ken, tell us once more, do you like virtual sessions or no?
Virtual sessions. If I have to speak at a virtual session, I'm happy to speak at a virtual session. But if I had the choice, I'd much rather be in person. I personally, it's just difficult for me to focus if I'm working all day, right? To sit and sit through an hour and a half general session, maybe go get a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom, and then come back and be disciplined enough to sit down for that next session, to start. I struggle with that. I get distracted, and when I'm physically there, obviously it's much easier, right?
Yeah. What about you, Narath?
Yeah, no, I agree. Rather be at the conference than at home. You have. Usually I work with a multi-monitor system in my office, so I'll have email continuously going on one side, and I have a conference video going on one side, and unfortunately my attention is not where it should be on the video screen. So no, I agree with Ken. For sure, a lot more valuable when you're at the conferences. So.
See, I'm the black sheep, I guess. I'm like on the fence, right? I like the ability to be able to not have to rush while taking notes or taking pictures of what somebody posts on the board, you know what I mean, with your phone. I like having more time to actually pay attention to my notes. But I do miss the interactions. I mean, that's also a great
I go there for the free giveaways. I go with like 50 pens.
50 pens.
This may be, I'm right, wrong, or indifferent, but I think like, okay, well, if I want to learn, like the session I did, how does Power BI work within Business Central, right? There's other places I can go anytime to learn about that. I can go pull up YouTube, probably find some videos that are going to give me some content, right? So it's almost like always on demand. I can go look at these things. So I don't know.
I think in the past too, they've been pretty bad at recording the sessions and posting them for people to see after the conference or whatnot. I think that would help out a lot with some people too.
Well, that's a good question.
It's really nice when you're able to talk to somebody in a similar industry or a different industry using the same product and see how they're applying the system. And the different ways of application of the functionality is very beneficial. I think that type of interaction really comes core on an on-site conference.
Right, and that happens because you and I walk in, we don't know each other, we sit down next to each other 5 minutes before the session starts, strike up a conversation and find out what we have in common. And that element isn't really there on the virtual.
So you guys are saying chat room conversations aren't up to par with speaking conversations? Who would have thought?
I could talk faster than I could type.
The next generation.
Kids, I was going to say, kids these days might not feel that way.
They're going to all virtual conferences in 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But all right, moving right along.
I still do this thing.
Microsoft has some new information on maintaining apps and per-tenant extensions for Business Central. So to start out with, they are providing resources to help app publishers stay current with their update responsibilities. Just because, this is a good thing because who hasn't had issues with installing apps and Business Central upgrades and all that stuff, you know what I mean?
I like the way you phrase that. Microsoft is releasing tools to help partners or app developers stay current on their products. I would have introduced that topic as Microsoft is putting policies in place
that you have to follow
to ensure that force partners and app developers to keep their products current.
Right?
For
sure.
because they don't want to have to keep supporting
Yep.
these old versions
Mhm.
of Business Central Online
Right.
because the apps aren't compatible with
Yeah.
the new version.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, they'll just pull your app.
So is it
Yeah.
is it the carrot or the stick?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But with that though, I noticed that they're doing a couple nice things. Supposedly, I guess they're providing resources, and some of these resources are like release plans, which they already do, access to pre-release bits, information about what will be deprecated, policy definition of terms, training and coaching, and and some other things like service notifications. So they're giving you some sort of resources to help you, but
Correct, absolutely. And
For sure.
to your point,
Yep.
they have done that. I think they're now formally doing that, so that people are aware and saying this is what's there. And then now they've added some time limits or durations on at what point are they just going to cut your app out
Yep.
of the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Right after, and I think it's like 180 days
Yeah.
Right.
or something after the release. Right? It's
As
a
they should.
long period
Yeah.
of time.
as they
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, if you want to work with Microsoft, you want to put your app out there,
Yep.
at least stay up to
Right.
date a little
Now,
Yeah.
just to be clear, what's already been there is, so let's say version 16.5 is out today, and 17 or 2020 Wave 2 is coming out in a couple days or today. If that deployment fails, you already can set up people to get notifications that tells you that upgrade deployment failed, and here's why it failed. That's all already there.
Yeah.
We occasionally have to deal with that, and then we have our support team or developers go in. They identify what change has to be made. Sometimes it's that an app has to be updated to a newer version.
Yep.
Sometimes
Right.
it's some sort of piece of code that no longer is supported.
Yep.
Could be one of those things. But you make the change, and then it automatically reschedules the update to try again
Yep.
the next day or a couple days later.
Whenever, yeah.
And then it runs, and you get a
Okay.
notification that it was done.
Successful.
So it's a relatively simple process, but I think there are, some people out there that aren't being diligent about keeping their apps up to date, or maybe they're no longer around
Yeah.
or supporting that app at
Yeah.
all.
I will say I noticed when we first started doing the podcast, we were trying out a lot of different apps, and a lot of the apps weren't updated and didn't work with the current version
Oh,
of
yeah.
Business Central.
Right.
So there was a lot of
Right.
issues.
Right.
But lately,
Right,
plus there's so many apps now, so I haven't seen too many that
Yeah.
that aren't working.
right. Yeah, I did have one to get to 17 in one environment I have that I had to update one of the apps that was in there. Once I updated the app to the new version, then the next
Yeah.
day it
Great.
updated it
That's good.
successfully.
Yep.
Nice. So definitely making some strides. All right, Ken, tell us about the 2020 Wave 2 features.
All right. So as we just discussed, 2020 Wave 2 is being deployed right around the last couple days of October. October 30th is, I think, when they
Usually,
said. We noticed at least one environment I'm aware of was on the 29th.
Yeah.
So right around the end of October, they're coming in right at the quote October deadline of getting it deployed right into all these environments. Now there are 76 total new features and changes that are part of this. Microsoft has classified them into about 9 or 10 different categories. I've taken the liberty to simplify that into 3 categories for today. So we're going to go through some administration tools that are available and how you administer your environments. Then we're going to talk about new features, and we're not going to hit them all, but just a couple of the key ones that people should be aware of. And then thirdly, we'll talk about service and the performance.
All right.
So how does it run, how quickly, and so on. So the first thing I want to touch on, though, is that although 2020 Wave 2 is deploying at the end of October, not all features are going to be deployed right away. So there are about 5 that are going to be coming out in November, and some of those are that notifications to users of high-risk changes to selected setup fields. So if you want to know when someone has changed your adjust cost setting on inventory setup, for example, you can now set this up and it'll notify you that someone has changed this field on this setup table.
Nice
So that's
feature.
coming out in November, as well as enhanced email capabilities. This was another big one. It allows things like, it improves how you deliver emails through Business Central, including using like a user's local email client or account. Right. December 2020 is the biggest one is probably the integration between Business Central and Microsoft Teams. So that also is not coming out October. That'll be December, and we're going to talk more about that in our special feature segment later. February is the major one that's coming out in February is going to be the ability to restore your Business Central environment back to any point in time within the last 30 days. So that's coming out in February, as well as some bank rec improvements. All right. So what's coming out in October? So from an administration standpoint, the key thing is first of all, to get to the admin center in Business Central, there's now a new security role in CSP. So before, to get into the admin center, you had to be a global admin for your company. They've now created a new role called Dynamics Admin. We can assign that to multiple users, and that gives them access to the Business Central Admin Center.
Right. It's good. Good thinking.
Right. Now, once you're in the Admin Center, you now have visibility to the capacity of your environment. How many production environments you have available, how many sandboxes, and how much data, how much database storage and file capacity do you have available to you? Because there is a limit now, 80 gig database space, and then you just purchase additional space. Right. So and then there's operations changes where it'll keep track of when you rename an environment or restore an environment or update your apps. So those are some of the admin features that are available. So I don't know, have you gone in and done anything with those?
No, you know what? I've been meaning to look to see if I can see the database and storage capacity and whatnot, but I have not. Just quick questions. Anybody know how much it costs to add database if you need it?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think
it's pretty pricey, $40 per gig or something like that.
That may be correct.
That's
yeah.
what I thought as well, yeah.
It's not super cheap.
Right.
Although, Microsoft is doing a bunch of things to minimize the database. They auto-compress the database.
Right.
The attachments are not stored in the database. They count that as separate storage. So to get to 80 gig of data in your database, we definitely have customers that have more than that for sure.
Yeah.
But the vast majority do not have 80 gig of data in their database. Right. So I think most people, that's not a concern for them. Yeah.
Lots of good features so far for the admin part.
So that's admin. So when we get to the new features, so as a user, what are some of the things that are available out there? The first and most important new feature is a feature called feature management. Did I say feature enough? So there's actually a page when you log into Business Central, you search for feature management. And what this is, it's a new page that they've created that you can see. So when Microsoft comes out with a new release, they don't automatically just enable all these new features on you. Many of those new features, you have to go into this feature management page and actually enable it. And there's a warning on some of them that says, hey, once you enable this feature, it's enabled.
So
there's no unenabling it or disabling it.
Now, can you do this company-wide or is it just user-wide, or per user?
It's company-wide.
It's company-wide?
So there's a new feature called, I don't know.
Navigate to navigate.
Yeah, whatever it is. That once you turn it on, it's global. It's like, now sometimes you can try it. There's a couple of them that say try me, where you can try it and test it out and see, but so that's the first thing. So when you log in November and you don't see some of these features, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, that's why. You may have to go into this feature management page and actually enable that feature. Now, what you may want to do is first create a copy of your production environment to create a sandbox, and then go into the sandbox and enable the feature so that you can test it first. to make sure it works and it doesn't impact anything negatively. Right.
Nice.
We talked about some enhanced emailing capabilities and emailing features. There's also some now new financial journal background checks. So some general journal related functions. So there's a new fact box that shows up on the page. So as you're keying in a journal entry, it shows you over in the fact box if you have any errors that are going to happen when you hit that post button. Like maybe your entry's out of balance, or your posting date is invalid. You actually can see it now, right there on the fact box, and that's one of those features that you have to enable. And also the ability to reverse posted general journals. So you can actually open a new page called Posted General Journals, and it's a list of all the journal entries that have been posted. You can click on a line and say reverse this entry or reverse the whole register all at once. So some new tools to make it easier on that. And then I think one of the new features that's maybe not as noticeable to users, but from a reporting standpoint and analysis standpoint, this is huge. They've added 4 new fields to every table in the database. Those 4 fields are created by and created on. So it shows you the user who created that record and when they created it, the system date, and then also last modified on and last modified by. So we get this question all the time from customers saying, hey, how do I know who created this sales order? The answer is you don't know, unless you have a field you've added to track that, right? Now we know. We know every record without having to enable the change log, which is something that you could also do. But these are just now standard fields that have been added to every record in the database. So from a reporting and auditability standpoint, I think it's a huge feature.
It's great,
Okay. So did I miss anything?
No, it looks like you got it all.
Features that you guys are aware of? No, okay. All right, so let's wrap it up here with some performance issues. So these are things that I think people, may take for granted, or you don't realize it until it's a problem.
Yeah.
But it's important because it's important to realize that it's almost like an equal focus on the features as the performance, right? From Microsoft's perspective. So the first thing is they've improved the performance of launching any page. And so what they're doing now is when you open up a page, it first updates the main content section, the main section of the page. So it's the customer list. First, it refreshes the list of customers. Then it starts refreshing the fact boxes. What this means is that users can, as soon as that main section comes up, they can act on it. They don't have to wait for fact boxes to refresh or other parts to the page to refresh. A little one, I've had a few users mention this to me. So let's say you want to run a report, and let's say you want to run your inventory valuation report as of September 30th. So you open up the report, you set your date parameter, you preview the report. And now you want to run it again as of August 31st. Well, today you have to go refine that report again off the menu and reopen the report request page and reset your date parameters. This is a little change, but they now keep that the request page open. So you can open multiple previews of the same report at the same time using different parameters. And it seems like a little issue, but when you're an accountant or someone who's trying to do month-end reconciliation, that's a little thing that saves you multiple steps, multiple clicks and keyboard strokes. So that's kind of a minor one, but I threw that one in there just because from a user satisfaction, that we've had a couple people ask about that. Probably a more significant one to do with reports is people may not know this, but behind the scenes, Microsoft keeps a replica copy of every Business Central database. And so what they've done is they've taken a list of about 25 to 30 reports, and they've added a property so that when you run these reports, it actually runs it off of the replica database. So what that does is it improves the performance not only for that report, because you're running it off of a different database, but it also improves the performance for all the other users, because you're not hogging all that bandwidth running that report.
Right.
So things like inventory valuation reports, accounts payable, aged accounts receivable, trial balance. Some of those are the reports that they've added that to. And then as a developer, you can actually go in and you can change a property on a standard report, or you can build a new report that uses the replica database. And again, it's all to improve performance for all users.
So that kind of brings me into a quick Stump Ken question.
Oh boy.
These database replicas, can they be saved? Are they saved globally, anywhere that Microsoft chooses, or are they saved only within a certain geographical region?
Only within a certain geographical region.
Nice. Okay, it's like 9 for 10.
Well, that's easy
like 1 for
because
40.
I know there are geographical regions that require that the data be maintained within that region.
Within the region, yeah.
Mainly in Europe.
Yeah.
There's some countries that have specific rules and guidelines about where the data is stored. So that was easy. Michael.
It was on the fly.
I've reserved my
It was on
stump
the
question for Nirav during our special segment, so we can look
Get
forward
ready,
to
bud.
that.
Get ready.
I've got one more kind of performance-related thing to go through, and then I think it might wrap this up. And that is there's a new function called data retention policies. So because there's a limit on this, not a limit, but there's a minimum, a default sizing of the database environment. There are certain log tables in the database that can quickly chew up space if you're not careful. One example of that is change log entries. So if you turn on change log entries and say, I want to track every change to every field on the customer, vendor, and item table, right? You're going to maybe write a ton of data out to that table. So these data retention policies allow you to set a time period that says, I only want to reserve or maintain my change log entries for 3 months, let's say, or 6 months. And then there's processes that will then run an auto purge all those entries. And there's about a half dozen of these log type tables that are available for you to go in and set these retention policies on.
Right.
So it's not just any table in the database.
Right.
It's specific
Certain ones.
tables.
Makes sense.
But these are things, again, Microsoft's looking at the overall performance of Business Central, making it as fast as possible. And I see that continuing for the foreseeable future. They're going to continue to make sure that even the largest of the existing maybe nav databases that are out there are going to be able to run on Business Central Online.
Yeah.
And they should. I mean, cloud, it's obviously a cloud world, and it's going to be cloud first going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Performance is going to be key.
Absolutely.
Who wants to have loading times that just take forever? I mean,
Yeah.
if you want people to stay on the cloud platform, better work just as crisp as on-premise. So.
Yep.
The other, one other little tidbit is there's the partner conference. We may have talked about this last month, but the Business Central Partner Conference is currently scheduled for April out in San Diego, California. I'm not sure if there's an EMEA conference also. There probably is. Nirav,
Yes, there's a MIA conference coming up.
Okay, there you go. So this one's the U.S. or North American Directions Conference is scheduled for late April, San Diego. I've got my fingers crossed that I will be in San Diego in late April 2021.
If you had to put a number on it, a percentage, would you say 10% chance you're going to make San Diego with what's going on?
I got it. 51%.
51%?
51% confident I'm going to be in San Diego.
It's optimistic. I think I'd put it at about 20.
Well, you're not invited
Oh.
then.
I'm just saying. Crazy. All right. So that
All
covers
right.
everything, right?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to learning more about 2 Increase here in a minute, and grilling Rav on
Yeah.
some Stump Rav questions.
No,
Yeah.
no grilling though until we get the special treat that he brought.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Then you can be mean after that.
Very good point.
All right, everybody.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.